You are familiar, of course, with the Earth's equator, that imaginary line around the Earth that is equidistant between the Earth's poles. The Earth's equator is some 40,000 kilometers, or about 25,000 miles long, and about 79% of the equator crosses water, although it does cross several countries across 3 continents. The equator demarcates the northern and southern hemispheres, and since the Earth tilts on its axis relative to the Sun, the equator also demarcates the seasons, depending upon which hemisphere is relatively more aligned towards the Sun's heat. So if it is winter in the northern hemisphere, across the equator, it will be summer. So if you were to say stand astride the equator in December, then you would be standing in 2 seasons. One foot would be in the middle of summer, the other in midwinter. Running through the Pacific Ocean is another imaginary line, the International Date Line. This is the point that demarcates the change of the calendar day. The line is not actually defined by international law, and it is not straight. Rather, the line jogs around various specific nations so as not to split those nations. But in theory, the International Date Line is the meridian 180 degrees from the prime or zero meridian. As the International Date Line demarcates the change in the calendar day, if you were to stand astride the International Date Line, you would be standing in 2 different days, with the foot on the east side of the line a day behind the foot on the west side of the line. And so enters the SS Warrimoo, a 345-foot-long Australian-New Zealand passenger ship launched in 1892. Under the command of Captain John Phillips, in December 1899, the Warrimoo was traveling from Vancouver to Sydney with 32 passengers, when Captain Phillips noticed that their position allowed them to take advantage of a unique opportunity. On the night of December 30th, traveling west, Phillips placed the Warrimoo at an angle at the point where the International Date Line crossed the equator. Thus, the bow of the ship was on the west side of the date line and south of the equator, and the stern on the east side of the date line and north of the equator. On a normal day, that would place the ship in 2 hemispheres, 2 seasons, and 2 days, an oddity in itself. But since it was the end of December 1899, it was even more unique. When the bow crossed the date line, it moved 1 day forward to December 31st, and at midnight, the bow then moved into the new century, January 1st, 1900. Thus, the ship was not just in 2 different days, 2 different hemispheres, and 2 different seasons. It was also in 2 different months, 2 different years, and 2 different centuries, all at the same time. As interesting as this story is, it might never have happened. The first reports about the Warrimoo crossing those 2 points at that specific time didn't come out until 1940, 40 years after the journey, and there doesn't seem to be any contemporary evidence that it happened. But the Warrimoo's direction of travel that December does make the story at least plausible, although it might be just as notional as, well, invisible lines around the Earth. In 1914, the Warrimoo was taken on as a troop ship during the First World War, and it was sunk May 17th of 1914 when it collided with a French destroyer. If you enjoyed this History Guy short, then feel free to click that like button, subscribe to our channel, and check us out on Patreon, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and our merchandise on teespring.com.